So this is the story of how I drove 21,000 kilometers across North America by myself while sleeping in my car. No, not like that, but like this. I'm a 20-year-old from Canada, and I couldn't convince anybody to come with me on this trip. Since I didn't have anybody to split the gas and hotel costs with, I decided I would sleep in the car. The first step was fitting a bed into a two-door Mustang. This is the woodworking shop at the university I go to. I made these wooden posts with countersunk holes so that I could bolt the bed right into the same holes that the seats used to be in. Once I had all my pieces ready, it was time to install them in the car. First I took out the passenger seat, then I installed my bed. Like this, it's held in very securely. Here's a photo of me testing my bed for the first time. I was really happy that it worked and didn't collapse. Here's a photo of the electrical system I built. I have a battery to charge my cameras and laptop, power my fridge, and run a fan overnight. Then I have an inverter so I can plug in stuff like you do at home, and I have a charger which gets its power from the alternator while the car is running. I used a CNC water jet cutter at the workshop in my university to cut out window shades so that if there were any creeps outside my car at night, I wouldn't be able to see them. The goal behind a custom cut sheet for my window was that it would sit really tightly and make it look like I had super dark window tint instead of making it obvious that I blocked the windows out. And then I left the house. The first stop was called Lions Bay, where all the local kids were hanging out. And then I headed east on the Trans-Canada Highway with the goal of reaching the easternmost point of Canada, which is also the easternmost point of North America. Later that evening, I saw this waterfall, and then I reached the first place where I would sleep in the car. So I made myself dinner and went to sleep. In the morning, I was thankful that I survived the night, and I was happy to be alive. I packed up my sleeping equipment and got on the road. That day, I crossed the British Columbia-Alberta border and explored some of the Canadian Rockies. The next morning, I watched the sunrise and sat by the river. Then I continued east on the Trans-Canada Highway. The next interesting place was Glacier National Park in Montana. Here, I did some hiking in the mountains and the views were really nice. This road carved into the side of a mountain was really cool to drive on, and here's where I slept that night. The mountains here are an oasis filled with greenery and wildlife at an altitude of 7,000 feet above sea level. And after the mountains came the Great American Plains. Then I went to Yellowstone National Park. It was pretty cool. I thought I saw a reindeer, but it's not. You can't even blame me. This is Wyoming. It's the least populated US state, and the first to allow women to vote, and it's way greener than I thought it would be. And I kept driving until I got to South Dakota. If anyone knows why these rocks are so pointy, let me know. And for the next 2,500 kilometers, I saw nothing interesting except for this house. I was really glad to make it to Lake Superior in Ontario, which is the largest freshwater lake in the world. And here I went to the southernmost point of mainland Canada. It's as far south as Rome, and even more south than some of California. The next place I went was Niagara Falls. At night, the falls lit up with the colors of the Ukrainian flag. On my way to Montreal, I drove along the St. Lawrence River through Thousand Islands National Park. In Montreal, I drove on the Canadian Grand Prix track. I continued driving along the St. Lawrence River through Quebec City, and until it emptied into the Atlantic Ocean, where this town is famous for the rock formation off of its coast. This rock formation was really awe-inspiring, like it was something out of a painting. That night, I slept in this grass field, and after a ferry ride, I was in Newfoundland, known for having the nicest Canadians. And the nice people here have colorful houses. Then my Google Maps told me to take this road, so I did. And I got to the easternmost point of Canada and North America. Standing on those rocks, there was nobody to the east of me in North America. It's crazy to think that I'm closer to all of these European countries than I am to my own home, and I haven't even left Canada yet. Being this far away from home meant that people had some reaction to seeing my license plate. And then I went to France. No, I'm not joking, Canada has a border with France. It's even part of the European Union, but it's in North America. I really felt like I was in Europe, from the intersections to the road signs, to not knowing if the street I'm currently driving on is a one-way or a two-way street because they don't use different colors like we do in North America. I was really lucky to have weather conditions which made this one of the most magical experiences of my life. So I'm just going to show you some videos of me driving around the island. Later that same night, there was a party in the street. The next morning, I drove around the other island and brushed my teeth. Not for the first time. Then I took 2 ferries back to mainland Canada, one of which is 17 hours long. From now on, I would be traveling west back home. In New York, I fell in love with Central Park, a green space in the middle of a massive city. I had never seen so many buildings. Next on the list, I visited Joe. I paid a visit to the Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia, where I played Country Roads by John Denver in the car. The next 3,200 kilometers was just flat, so the only interesting thing were the sunsets. This photo here marks the end of my trip. For a conclusion, I have too much to say, so I'm just going to say nothing at all.